So I'm Mark Goldman. I am the team lead on Team Legally BIM. We're exploring how design and bid information current state gets exchanged between contractors, owners, and stakeholders within the construction industry. We expect on the future state to understand how BIM, GIS, and other technologies can improve the process so that we're not exchanging dumb information, but we're keeping that high fidelity, high quality information through the early stages of design, all the way through to bidding, into construction, and optimizing the whole process.
So as the industry moves to being more data-centric and more model-centric, we have to start establishing the standards and the processes for utilizing the models instead of just relying on a drawing, which when you think about it is really somebody else's interpretation of what somebody else needs.
It takes a village, it takes a great team, and Legally BIM had one hell of a team. Just to kind of recap what we were working on, Legally BIM. How might we capitalize on transportation project mandates to design and bid using 3D BIM as the contract deliverable in ways that projects adopt new means and methods for producing and sharing bid response data so that we maximize the potential for collaboration, process efficiency, and digital integrity? So when we looked at the existing conditions, the current state, it started out with many shared pains at the very beginning. The fact that the owner, in this case the Texas DOT, is only serving up the dumb PDFs that they received from an engineer who probably was using very intelligent methods, BIM, CAD, scheduling tools that were intelligent, object-based, model-based, but they were delivering dumbed-down information. We went back to that root level of the starting point and actually changed the process from the very beginning so that the owner would actually have a model-based common data environment that everyone would connect it to. Multiple common data environments. You might call them actually a connected data environment of CDEs. And if we start out here, we will have Nicole start out in the role as the engineer of record at an engineering firm.
Hello. I'm the engineer of record from an engineering firm. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about what happens before it gets to this level. So as the engineer of record, this is where we're going to be developing all of the, what do we decide to call them? Not calling them
Designs.
What do we decide? Data. Thank you, Rachel. Where we develop all of our data. This is future conditions. So we are wanting to store this in this common data environment, the owner's common data environment, but obviously we also have some files that we will store on our own server. And so this is the process of us developing all of these, getting them ready to send into the bid environment. Did I cover everything?
Very good. And then representing our Department of Transportation, who owns this CDE, who has engineers connecting to it, so that it's one location for information to be stored and used.
Right. So once we get that information, and once that information is developed into that common data environment, I think that's a very important thing because we have one place for one single source of truth, right? There's not that transfer or anything like that. And so that's one of the things that we focused on was making sure that we had a common data environment. But whenever we had a common data environment for design or development, we wanted to make sure that as we went to a published site to where contractors can get it, that those two are not connected. So we wanted to make sure it's not one and the same. I mean, they're connected, but it's not one and the same. So this one where it's published is public facing to where anybody can get it. So that's where any contractor, anybody from the public period can access this data and see what this project is all about.
So in our scenario, the blue arrows coming off of the published CDE reaches out to multiple general contractors who are going to access that published data to then prepare their schedules, their estimates, their plans using model-based approaches, using data instead of just using static dumb files. Todd?
So now I did want to give some credit though because they are vectorized PDFs. So. And that was one of the first products of this coalition, right? With working with standardizing the publishing of PDFs so that we're getting vector data and not flat images. So at least we could do something with it. But now that we're getting this more enhanced data, really it's the information side of it, and we're able to actually, if you're not aware, the National BIM standards is now actually promoting that it's actually, instead of the building information model, there still is a building information model, but that's the model itself. But the process is actually BIM information management, which makes actually more sense, right? Because that's really what you're doing, is managing information. So now we get that information as the bidding contractor. We're able to take that information and then bring it into our systems without having to recreate anything, so we can use the data that's there. It makes it more seamless, and there's just a lot of transparency between the data, and everybody is actually seeing the same data. They're not having to discover anything else extra. And then but also, I'm not the only one getting the data. There's other contractors also getting this data too. So
Sean, maybe do you want to maybe take?
no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I represent all the other bidding contractors who are using the same data-rich federated environment to access that information. And it maintains its high fidelity between all contracting parties going in for the bid. And so leveraging the same processes, but with our own internal magic or whatever it might be to produce our bid, but common data across the board.
So in this future state, regardless of which modeling, authoring, scheduling system you're using, by tapping into a common data environment with standards being in place, with standard operating procedures being understood during this design to bid workflow, this is a seamless flow of information, data rich, model rich.
And then next we go to our
Trade contractors. So in these situations, you've got GCs who are tapping into the owner's CDE to extract their information to put together their bids, but it's very likely the GC is going to subcontract out some of that work. They're not going to self-perform everything. So Jeff is acting as our
So the trade contractor, the lowest guy in the totem pole. But if it wasn't for that lowest guy in the totem pole don't stand, right? So let's give him a lot of credit. So as we saw in our current state, the trade contractor will often get multiple requests from multiple contractors, general contractors, and that may come in multiple forms. And a lot of times they don't even have access to that source of information that the general contractors had. So in this scenario, the trade contractors are getting those requests from the GCs, but there's also a standardized method in which they're providing that information back to them. So hopefully they're getting this standard operating procedure is flowing down to them. They're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And then if they need to, they can always double check with the published data to make sure that what they're getting corresponds with what they're giving the
And then the
contractor.
final step. Oh, you don't have much time. Time, we're over.
Okay. So real quick, I get the trade contractor information, and then I send it to our submittal.
All right.
Person.
I'm not a DOT person, but I do play one on TV. So we have a common data environment here. We have a published one here. Everything comes back into the bid system. So this is a different DOT person. It's still the same data. It's still that golden thread that comes all the way through. We don't know what the magic is over there. We know that there is magic happening, and it comes back in, not in a necessarily a file format per se, but more of a data format where someone can then make the decision whether it's A plus B or whether it's a value, whatever it is. This person then takes all that information and then awards. And the key to that is that we're stopping there for this process. We're not talking about operate. We're just saying, okay, now the bid is done. So.
It would take another 10 minutes.
All right, we have a few ideas as well as next steps. We're not going to get into those now, but I think we've defined a great future state based on the pains that we know exist today.